Welcome back, everybody. Automotive Inc. Today I am in a 2024 Ram. I'm not actually going to drive this one. I just took a 2025 for a spin, new HO, new 8-speed, and no real discounts on those. A little bit of rebates here. The big ticket is 24 remaining bighorns and stuff. They got some major money, so this one's 85,000. They're marking it down to 69. It has a whopping, I think this one has 60 miles on or something. So, we'll talk about a few things here in just a few minutes, but I just want to walk over really the main differences to the grill. They did change a couple things on the inside, so let's take a look. So before we get going, guys, make sure you smash the subscribe button for me, thumbs up, and notification bell. So in the 25s, the buttons are finally changed, but same exact door configuration, storage, same center console, same tech in the middle, same screen sizes, although you can get this big screen in a Tradesman. So if that's something that just lights your candle, you can get that. Same buttons on the steering wheel, same gauges you always could get. I like these gauges. The Tradesman gauges are good, and in 24 you could get a TFT display, a 12-inch display. So if you really love digital gauges versus analog, I would say that's good. Now this one does have the auto leveling. This is a 24, and it does have the auto leveling. Interesting enough, the way Ram does it is their payload and their towing specs are wonky. You really have to look at the gross vehicle weight rating configuration sticker on the door and see what that is, the gross vehicle weight rating and your payload. It does write down the payload. This one is only 1,900 pounds on a 2,500 because the suspension weighs, the bucket seats weigh, so everything takes away from the payload. On the 2,500, it was 2,200. In comparison, it's 39 on my gas F250. So very interesting. Same small back seat as we talked about before. Has a little bump in the middle. And we'll talk about what my thoughts and impressions on the drivability. But everything else is the same. So let's talk about drivability on it. Okay, so I couldn't film the test drive in this thing because the salesperson wanted to go and just wanted to talk the whole time. So being a 25, they didn't let me just take it out for a spin like I normally would do. And it's understandable. So we're going to talk about drivability and what I thought of that. It would have been kind of funny to watch my face because really this new ZF 8-speed shifted reminiscent of my ASIN. If you've driven an ASIN over 68 RFE, it was not linear. And this truck had 17 miles on it. Keep in mind the Chevy that I have a video out on, I'll link that down below. It shifted rocket smooth. That 24 Super Duty had about 180 miles on it. Torque shift ultra smooth. And this thing, this 8-speed started in second gear. Unless you're in tow haul mode, it starts in second gear, which isn't a big thing for me because it had plenty of power. All the Cumminses had plenty of power. I don't care about class rating numbers. I think that's stupid as crap because, to be honest with you, they're all plenty powerful. It's more the demise of the chassis, depending if you're going 2,500 or 3,500, that will dictate, your actual tow ability. But that 8-speed was not smooth. It reminded me of my ASIN. And when it comes to tweaking and tuning trucks, that's where you're really going to start running into your problems with transmission reliability. Because I had 2 ASINs, a handful of 5-speed, 6-speed manuals, and then a lot of 68 RFEs. And I had one ASIN crash out on me, and I wasn't even towing. And I think the truck only had 12,000 miles on it when it crashed out, and it spent a week up in Glenwood Springs while I was getting repaired and went back up to get it, blah, 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 and ended up having to replace transmission. But other than that, I haven't had any problems with the 68 RFE or my other ASINs. But the 68 RFE was a very smooth transmission when we're talking about Chrysler products. But the ZF8, I don't know, it's not a big selling point for me. And to be honest with you, the H.O. Cummins is the only option in 25. The standard output, plenty of power, and everything like that. The biggest changes, it was a smidge quieter than the 24, but the 24s were already pretty dang quiet. Obviously, the change of location for the oil filter versus an actual old-fashioned oil filter or a canister. It's neither here nor there. It is nice that it's up and easier to get to. Fuel filters, I didn't have a problem reaching them on all my old Cumminses, so they put them down on the driver's side, back side of the engine block. Not a big fan of glow plugs ever, but that's what's in Power Strokes and Duramaxes, so okay there. Newer turbo, I didn't notice any difference in it. Matter of fact, when I dug into it, the mirrors were like kind of just wobbling and stuff, so it was like you had that great Cummins growl to it. Best exhaust brake in the market, Cummins hands down. But power wise, yeah, I don't really notice the difference between the HO and the standard output. The real big difference obviously is the transmission, because if you look at a 25 over a 24, you get a different grille, you get different door switches, and you get that big RAM badge on the back, which that is not my favorite. I would probably take that off, because ABS chrome in the sun is eventually going to warp and fall apart. And to be honest with you, like I said, when I went out to Detroit, you could feel the difference in the steel materials where the body lines meet on a 25 and a 24. You can totally feel the difference. So I'm not sure what corners they're cutting or what advantage that would be, but you know, it felt flimsy. On that test drive, again, drove it for a short distance, so not really enough data for a fuel economy number per se. I think it was right around 11, but not enough data. But honestly, it was just like they haven't changed enough. That ZF 8-speed was supposed to be the saving grace, because wow, look at all this new stuff, and then having the HO is the only option at 12,000 something. I think it's one of the most expensive diesel options. And I get it, that pick one and run with one. It doesn't really even matter. Most people don't need a diesel, let alone an HO. But yeah, I mean, even with the, I think it has 342s in it now, that's your standard gear ratio. We'll go into the office here. I'll show you those towing specs, because we're going to talk really about that a lot in this video, because if you're going Ram, you got to look 3500. But back to it. I just can't stay focused on enough that this Ram didn't change enough. But on that test drive, kind of some clunky transmission shifts when you dug into it, reminiscent of the Asen. Nothing mind-blowing there. Good exhaust braking. I just tried it on full auto for a little bit. I like that. I like how Ford and Ram give you an auto and full feature. But yeah, the 8-speed, and personally I like the 24 grill better, and I like the Ram head on the tailgate versus the big Ram. But while we were driving and we were talking, the center stack with the 12-inch screen started squeaking and rattling. And like I said, when I dug into the engine and it geared down, like you could see just the vibration of the engine and what the tires and everything, that the mirrors were almost like vibrating. They were not a clear picture. And again, driving both the Chevy and the Ford, just the transmission's just so much smoother and more linear. I'd rather have a 68 RFE, honestly. And you guys can bang on me all you want, but I've towed plenty with every one of the Ram transmissions, and I really can't ding any of them, especially for longevity. And I would always pick a manual over an auto. So when you go back to it, they didn't change the interior. So my biggest gripe with Ram, before we get to the tow specs, is the belt trims on the exterior doors. Those are going to look like garbage in about 2 years. Ram, give the HD the half-ton experience with the new cab configuration. In the passenger side front, you'll notice it. Get in a Ram and then go sit in a Ford. You'll notice that big bell housing intrusion onto the floor. That drives me nuts, because I do sit on there once in a while when my wife's driving, and it takes a big chunk of your floor out, about 6 inches of your flooring. If you get anything above the system where you add Alpine or Infinity and you get a crew cab, you're going to lose most of your floor storage in there. So you do have the coolers in the floor, or the little storage bins in your floor, but those are cumbersome sometimes to get into, because you have to unsnap the large rubber mats, which I love from Ram. They make excellent floor mats. But to get in there, you got to unsnap them from the clip and then lift it up and get in there. So it's not overly conducive to get into. So if you're going to use those storage bins, you want to use something that you don't need to get in there a lot for. But otherwise, other than that, the storage, you have just one small size. And I do love the stereos. I think Ram has the best stock, even in a tradesman, the best stock stereo of the three. And might even beat the Bose and the Chevy, to be honest with you. So They didn't really change enough for me to want to go 25 to 24, although the tow ratings did go up for 25. And now we need to step into the office, look at those tow specs. I will link them down below, print those out, because when it comes to RAM, it's not as easy as walk up to a Chevy, opening the door, and figuring out what you can gooseneck, what you conventional tow, and your payload. RAM gives you a payload number, and then they give you your gross vehicle weight rating, and depending on how they ordered that truck, it's going to directly affect your towability. And that's why, again, if you're looking RAM, even non-dually, I think you got to look at a 1-ton instead, because the 1-tons have a leaf spring setup, and that extra beefiness, whether it's in the frame or whatever Ram's doing to make their 3/4 ton numbers a little bit or even a lot less lower, you got to think about that. And especially if you're thinking mega cab, you have to go 1-ton, because otherwise your payload's just going to be shot. So if you just need a big truck to drive around and tow a small trailer, then I think you're okay. But as soon as you get up into the bigger 5ers, 17, 18, your mega cab is not going to fly. So let's go look at those numbers and we'll wrap this up. All right, so now that we're in the office, these are going to be your payload and tow ratings, guys, for your 25. Now, pay strict attention to this word, maximum payload capability. So when you're looking at this, so that truck was 10,190 was the gross vehicle weight rating, and you cruise over here and you're thinking, oh, well, I'm good, 2750 slash 2450. You really have to take into consideration this says maximum, so whatever your truck has extra in it equipment wise, it's going to pull from that number. That's why that one was only like 2,200 pounds. But you can see your max payloads, those are probably going to be your more basic trims. And then you can see your mega cab right there cuts way into that. And of course, you can't even get a HEMI mega cab 3/4 ton anymore. So then you cruise over there and you can see the numbers for the 3,500. And you can see there's a stark difference here at 3,900 versus 27, roughly, just on the 6.4 bed. So you have to know all of these numbers, and you'll get this on your door tag. So if you're looking at a 10-1, which is how most of them are being ordered, the maximum payload would be 2560 or whatever. So that's a big number. But when you come up here to your tow specs, you can skip the section on HEMI if you're going diesel or vice versa. But you can see right here all of these different variations. So 10,190, and you can see also up here where it says maximum trailer weight. So this can be manipulated by your actual payload and everything like that. It's going to cut into your, this is just a max number of what the most basic version of that truck's going to do. So you really got to pay attention to gross combined vehicle weight rating 2 on the sticker and figure all of that out, because again, the 2,500 numbers, they might look good here, but that's probably going to be a tradesman with the camper package and most likely the front heavy-duty service front end. So depending on how it's built, you're going to need to know these numbers. Again, I will link it in the description. But you can just see a stark difference. Whether gas is not a big deal going to a 1-ton. You're not going to help your tow ratings much, and you're probably going to lose a little bit of payload. But 1-ton versus 3/4 ton when it comes to RAM, you can see these numbers up here are substantially better when it comes to that. And if you're going to go with a mega cab, like I told you before, it cuts into your tow rating. No matter how you configure your mega cab in the 2,500, it's going to be a 15,680 max tow. So you're going to probably want to stay in crew cab there. Versus some of these, I think these numbers are up here with the dually specs. But, that's why you're getting 24,000 pounds of towing. But I think it's definitely, if this isn't a crew cab number, and it's a if this isn't a dually, then you'll need all of this information to figure that out. So I do think that most of you are probably towing lower than these numbers, and you'll probably be fine either way. My suggestion is skip the 3/4 ton when it comes to RAM. If you're going to have a 5er, I think that the leaf spring setup is a little bit more stable, unless you're going to get the factory airbags or put bags on it. I just prefer that over that. And when it comes to everything else, Cummins is going to be good. I have no doubt about it. I don't know about glow plugs over a grid heater, and I don't know about a couple of the other things that they've changed with it. And I definitely can't tell you that the power is mind-blowing difference over the 24 being the only engine choice with the 8-speed. It just wasn't linear. Exterior changes, they're not bad. They're not my favorite, but not necessarily over a 24. When it comes to gassers from GM and Ford, they both have higher tow ratings on most almost across the board. They have higher tow ratings. So if you're looking at one or the other, and then to be honest with you, Ram Stellantis finance rates are not good. Not that anybody's is, but they're not offering anything like that. They are offering some deep discounts, which is good. They need to unload some 24s, but the 25s, no discounts. And when it comes to exterior and interior changes, there wasn't enough, in my opinion, to say, guys, run out and get a 25 or a 25 because Ram's new transmission and HO is just the best combination. I would just say go snag a deal on a 24 because honestly, you can get a better deal. I mean, if Ram is going to be the direction you're going to go. But as for me, after driving it, it was not a mind-blowing experience in the Ram. The squeaks bothered me. The low payload bothers me. Taillights look nice. Headlights, not overly fond of. Yeah, it was a unique experience with Ram. I feel like my 16 just had a better quality. I've said this before. I felt like the quality of the interiors, although they look really nice and initially feel very nice, they don't feel as nice as the 16. And I think a lot of people can say that in 17, when they changed the body style over, that they would agree on a lot of different things quality-wise with Ram. So that is going to be my review and 2 cents of the 2025. And again, you've seen enough exterior ones. You can see there in the picture. Really sitting next to the 24, it's just not a big difference. So as always, guys, I appreciate you guys being here. We'll catch you on the next one.